All right, the clock has ticked past noon, so I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And Mr. Coley, Tommy Small is across the hall, so he'll be here in just a minute. If you just go ahead and mark us all as present, we'll go ahead and get underway.
Will do.
First thing on our agenda is approval of the minutes from November 21st. Those were mailed out to you. I need either a motion to approve or would also entertain any corrections to the minutes.
Move to approve.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right. First official action on our docket is Resolution 1407, a resolution requesting the City Council of the City of Knoxville to pass a resolution setting the tax equivalent payments for the electric and gas systems for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2019, and providing for the allocation and distribution of such payments to the affected taxing jurisdictions. Gabe?
Commissioners, Mark Walker, CFO for KUB, will be presenting you the fiscal year 20 tax calculations for this next year.
Commissioners, as you'll recall, each year KUB does make in lieu of tax payments to the various taxing jurisdictions in which our systems are located in accordance with state law and the city charter. Today I'm going to talk about pilots for all 4 systems, but the resolution you have before you today for your consideration only deals with electric and gas payments, and that's because state law requires that the municipality's governing body adopt a resolution each year that sets the amount of the electric and gas payments and provides for their allocation and distribution. But it does not say anything about water and wastewater, so that's why the resolution is just electric and gas. In total, our payments for FY20 to the City of Knoxville and other taxing jurisdictions are $30,925,000. I rounded up just a bit there. It does represent a decrease of $626,000 or 2% compared to last year's payments. And that is a bit unusual. Usually we're looking at a growth rate of somewhere between 4 and 5%, but this year it is a decline. And the reason for that is a rather sharp decrease in Knox County's property equalization rate for 2019. It actually dropped from a value of 1.0 or 100% to 87.44%. That's the biggest decline I've ever seen in all my years here at KUB, and really what it represents is, by the State Equalization Board, what's on the tax rolls for property values in Knox County compared to what the calculated market value of properties is. So assessed value equals 87% of market value. And that means that a reappraisal of properties for tax purposes is right around the corner. So that is a rather sharp decline. The equalization rate is a component of calculating in lieu of tax payments for public utilities and other government entities in order that we pay on a comparable basis to the private sector. So that does break in our favor this year in particular. And you really see that in the budget, because when we set the budget back in April and presented it to the board, and of course the board adopted it in May, the equalization rate had not yet been approved by the state. So we were still going off the 1.0. That was the best information we had at the time. And you can see 3.2 million under budget. That has a significant impact on what we're actually paying this year. But that's good news for us and for our customers in that regard.
How will that affect the budget next year, Mark?
Next year, likely, the equalization rate, if you look back over history, it'll go back to 100% in 2020. We typically always budget at 100% on that. It is a bit of a conservative mode of budgeting for that. What will likely happen next year, when you have property values reappraised for a 2020 tax year, the certified tax rate will lower, because the taxing jurisdictions aren't to get a windfall from a market increase in property. And as a result, we pay that certified tax rate as well, so we will probably break in our favor again next year. Now, compared to budget, we will know that in advance, so, but as far as cost, it's not going to be up as much as it otherwise would have. if all those things happen, which likely will, given where the equalization ratio is right now. Good question. Just real quick reminder about the governance of pilots, because there are distinctions. Electric and gas are governed by state law. State law is very specific. There's a statute for both the electric and gas pilots and how they are to be calculated. So there's formulas actually set forth in law. There's two components for electric and gas. One is based upon the book value of utility system assets for electric and gas in the various taxing jurisdictions. That's one. Two is based upon 4% of average operating margins over a 3-year period. And then that part two is allocated based upon really how the part one is, based upon the taxing, the book value in the taxing jurisdictions. So two components for that. And in accordance with law, those have to be paid before on or before the last business day of June. That's electric and gas. Water and wastewater are different. Water and wastewater, state law is silent. Those are governed by the city charter. Water is paid really on that same basis as part one for electric and gas. It's based upon the book value of water system assets in the city. We only pay the city for water in lieu of tax payments, and that has to be paid before the end of February. Wastewater, the language in the charter is a bit more flexible. The amount is set based upon the discretion of the board, but can't be more than based upon the book value of wastewater system assets in the city. And what the arrangement that's been in place with the city for a long time is a 5% growth factor for wastewater, as opposed to going through the plant calculation, it just grows 5% each year. And that has served us well, in particular, over the course of the consent decree. So, just wanted to remind you about the governance. It's not all that straightforward. Just looking at the various utility systems, real quickly, you see the total amount and the breakdown by systems. You will note that electric, gas, and water are all lower than last year because of that decline in the equalization rate. Wastewater, however, is up about $220,000 because of the 5% growth factor. Now, if we were paying wastewater on the same basis that we paid water, which we don't, that number there would be about $8.5 million. So you can see it has been to our favor to have that arrangement. By taxing jurisdiction, the largest amount, about 65% of total pilots, goes to the city of Knoxville, just a little over $20 million for fiscal year 20. That represents about just under 10% of the city's total source of taxation revenue. So we remain the single largest taxpayer or source of tax revenue for the city of Knoxville. Knox County at $9.9 million, that represents a little under 5% of taxation revenue for Knox County. So we are also a very large taxpayer in Knox County as well. The other taxing jurisdictions, most of this is for assets for our electric system that are in the outlying counties, and you can see what those amounts. Some also in gas system for Anderson County and Loudoun County. Total adds up again. For all those other counties outside of the city of Knox County, it's about $1 million in total. And looking at how it's grown over time, this goes back to 1998 actually. Our total pilots were a little over $12 million, and today they're right at $31 million. So over that 20-plus year period, it's grown annually about 4.3%. Compare that to the rate of inflation over that period of time, is about a little bit more than double. Rate of inflation 2.1% annualized over that same period. The city has grown about 4.7%, or has grown 4.7% annually over that 22-year period. County about 3.5%. And then in closing, Resolution 1407, by adopting that, you are requesting City Council to adopt a resolution setting the electric and gas payments by taxing jurisdiction for FY20, and also providing for the distribution of those payments by KUB. In total, it's $22,895,000 set forth in the resolution for electric and gas payments in total. And I'd be happy to answer any questions. Yes, sir.
$22.9 million is not pocket change sitting around. How do we generate the cash to write the check?
It's part of our sources of revenue. It's paid out of our system revenues.
So
To pay that, we budget for that. It's part of our long-term financial plans each year.
do we have to convert anything, or do we have that kind of cash in the checking account?
We do.
Okay.
We plan accordingly as
Okay.
part of our cash flow. We make sure we have adequate cash flow, obviously, for electric and gas for the month of June to be able to make those payments,
Yeah.
and for water and wastewater the month of February to make those payments. But it's just part of our
Isn't that
cash
like
flow
your Christmas
long-range
budget?
plan.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. I'm just hoping we didn't have to sell the Middlebrook property.
No, all that's planned out. We're good.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Marcia.
All right, we will need a motion and a second for Resolution 1407 on first and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any members of the public who wish to speak on this resolution? All right, seeing none, Mr. Kohler, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Askew,
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton,
Aye.
Commissioner Herbert,
Aye.
Commissioner Pennell,
Aye.
Commissioner Simpson Brown,
Aye.
Commissioner Small,
Aye.
Commissioner Worden.
Aye.
Resolution 1407 is passed.
All right, next on our agenda is Resolution 1408, a resolution authorizing the condemnation and the taking of a permanent utility easement on one certain property located at 1121 East Bull Run Valley Drive, Powell, Knox County, Tennessee. Jay?
Commissioners, as part of KUB's goal to improve reliability throughout our system, we have begun work in the high school area, which is the northern part of Knox County. And we have already begun that work. But we do have one particular property we need to do some work along that needs an easement. I'd like to introduce Billy Joe McCarley, Director of Engineering, to give you the details of that project.
Thank you, Mr. Bolus. Good afternoon, Commissioners. As Mr. Bolus said, as part of our efforts to improve electric reliability in the high school community, we have a 7-mile upgrade project where we're upgrading our backbone from single-phase to 3-phase, and then we are also creating a loop configuration inside of this system. I'm excited to say we actually are all but complete with the 7-mile upgrade, minus a 1,200-foot section located at 1121 East Bull Run Valley Drive. Today, I'm requesting authority for condemnation authority for a 30-foot wide easement on this property. What's interesting, but not unique to Knox County, is there is a very limited right-of-way located on this parcel, located off Bull Run Valley Drive. And this general area is up off I-75 near Raccoon Valley area. But as you can tell in the picture to the left, there's an existing road and there's an existing single-phase line. This does not, however, we do not have enough right-of-way to upgrade this line from a single-phase line to a 3-phase line with the necessary vegetation clearing and additional anchoring required in this area. However, this route will generally remain unchanged. So, to date, we've actually needed 8 easements on this project, and we already have obtained 7 of them. And as I said, this route will remain unchanged. However, in order for us to go from single-phase to 3-phase, we have additional poles, we have additional anchoring and guying, and we'll also do additional vegetation clearing, which is very consistent with the 13 kV upgrades we do inside of our system. So for your consideration today, I would like condemnation authority for Resolution 1408 to obtain a utility easement on this parcel. If given this approval, we will continue to try to negotiate with this customer. All proceeds will be paid out of the electric division, and we'll be very happy to say that we can actually put a bow tie and complete this project at HE11. And so with that, do you have any questions, Commissioners?
You know, I'm sorry.
Is this a residence?
It is, ma'am.
You know, I'm always leery of taking action like this, and so what is the conversations with the property owner? Where do they stand? Do they just do they understand the process and just want fair value, and that's where we are? What's the conversations like? Because I'm just always as a quasi-governmental organization, always really leery about, condemning, taking people's property without exhausting all possibilities. And might there be some conversation about what other alternatives may exist? Have we looked at all alternatives, or is that the way we were going and that's where we've landed?
Absolutely. We don't want to be here until we've exhausted all potential opportunities. So far, our negotiations with the customer have been, we don't want any power lines at all on our property. And so if you're going to come through here, it would have to be underground, which is definitely very costly to our ratepayers for a upgrade in this area.
The negotiation will continue, and this is just a formal process, and we don't want to go into the courts or to ask for an injunction. The thing is that the line's there today and on the existing road, and we want to keep it there. And so I think we got a homeowner that doesn't want to negotiate with us, and we're trying to continue that negotiation. But, you know, we don't want to, I understand your concern.
Can you go back to the map?
Yeah, in this theory, there's already a pole there. To upgrade that to a three-phase pole, you're going to see a cross arm, a little bit more vegetation clearing, and a couple more poles and a couple more anchors, but we're not trying to dramatically change anything on this property.
Is this what was done on Castle Pike?
Yeah,
Similar. Okay. From a visual perspective?
And is the home close to this?
No, the home sits back on the left side. It's probably a couple hundred feet off of the actual roadway. Maybe 100 feet. I've not got the measurement
Yeah,
memorized.
but I'm trying to think of what the impact is if you're sitting on the front porch of the house, are you going to see something different? If you're from the street looking toward the house, are you going to see something different? Vegetation clearing, will that just be at the upper branches, or we have to take any trees out?
We will try to go about 15 feet on either side of that, but generally that look's not going to be much different other than having a little bit of a wider swath of clearing.
The existing
and on the-
easement
I'm sorry.
is, excuse me, the existing easement is how much, and then how much are we expanding?
So there is a 40-foot wide right-of-way on this property, and we are within that 40-foot wide right-of-way. And we're asking for 30 feet, and it'll go on either side of the roadway. So in this particular situation, you'll see us probably another 15 feet on either side.
Roads, we won't touch the road.
But your work is only going to be on one side of the road, but the easement will,
This
Cover
road's
both
a
sides.
little, you can see the road, actually it doesn't have much of a curve, but we will cross the road at one point.
oh, okay.
Got it.
Oh, I see, actually, right here you can see how it
Yeah.
goes. I see. So the,
Go ahead.
just, so the major point of discussion is more, they don't want anything on the property, not that it's gonna hurt the view, or it's gonna damage some sort of, property they have, or building they have there already. It's just simply philosophically, I don't want anybody touching my property.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that the,
At the risk of confessing, I don't know, something I should remember, tell me what, if an engineer can speak in non-engineering terms, tell me what the difference between a 1, 2, and 3 phase.
Larger wire and more of them. So you have three wires at the top of a set of one, and they'll be spread out on a cross arm. So you have a little bit more width too.
It just enables us to carry more power
Yeah,
per pole.
Yeah, a lot per the whole line will be upgraded, by a factor of more than 3, but a lot more capacity, a lot more reliability. Yes.
Okay.
Part of the benefit in this particular area is it allows us to create a loop heap. And so, we get out in the county, there's a lot of undulating terrain, we got a lot of trees, and so if we were to have a tree fall into a line on one side of that loop, this would allow us to pick up that load and improve reliability to this area.
what's the difference between do you pay them for an easement, or
Yes, ma'am.
what's the difference between the payment of the easement and the cost to put that section underground?
Significantly, I can get that for you, but.
Like $100,000, $200,000 plus, more than that, $1 million?
About $1 million.
Okay.
But 1,200 feet, it'd be quite,
I'd like to point out, if you can see, the property already has a roadway going through the middle of it, and this traverses along the roadway, so we're not going through the middle of a property. We're truly staying right within the right-of-way, just adding a little more. So they own all that yellow parcel, so we're really going to work an area where the roadway already exists, and the line already exists as we speak. It's just a matter of, you know, the wider distance.
Yeah, I think your impact, already impacted area. See that?
And they understand why you're doing that. I'm asking probably a rhetorical question, but.
Our negotiations so far with this customer, he probably has not been completely open to really trying to understand how this impacts and will improve the area.
Okay.
Really, it's been unfortunately very difficult so far to work with him.
Have we had an issue with trees falling into this line? I'm thinking of how you can argue with him.
HE11 is one of our worst performing circuits in our system, so it definitely is going to have a significant impact on the high school community.
It'll have a significant positive impact on this customer too.
Oh, yes.
Yes, sir.
So talking hypotheticals again, if that property is out of play, what would be our alternatives? Do we think about alternatives to this? It wouldn't work. I mean, moving the poles, would it be too much money? We can't do underground, but in terms of if we did not have to take this action, what would be the outcome?
There's very few navigable roads out in this area in order to create this loop, and so we would still have to get to him somehow, and it would be very costly for us to try to find an alternative route to get there.
Would it be more than going underground? No, I'm just kidding.
But the bottom line is his property is located in a place that we have to have
Yes,
in
sir.
order to, unless we just go all the way around, which is not feasible.
Yeah, you look at that map, there's no any roads on
Yeah.
that map because they're all big, long tracts of
Right.
property at night. It's just a beautiful area.
Yeah.
There's not many roads.
Thank you.
Sometimes down the road.
Thank you. All right, we need a motion and a second for Resolution 1408 on first and final reading.
So moved.
Second.
Are there any members of the public who wish to comment on this resolution? All right, seeing none, Mr. Coley, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Askew.
Aye.
Commissioner Hamilton.
Aye.
Commissioner Herbert.
Aye.
Commissioner Fennell.
Aye.
Commissioner Simpson Brown.
Aye.
Commissioner Small.
Aye.
Commissioner Word.
Aye.
Resolution 1408 is passed.
All right, David, you're up for the president's report.
Yeah, today we are presenting our annual Employee Excellence Awards. I'd like to introduce Susan Edwards to kick us off today.
Second only to the April budget presentation, December is our favorite board meeting. We are very glad to be here today to honor some of the people that you see over here on the other side of the room. As you know, part of our blueprint is our shared values, and one of our shared values is that we value the hard work and commitment of all of our employees. But this is a nice time of the year where we can really pause and recognize the best and brightest and the bright spots of the year where our employees have really gone above and beyond to do more than we expect in serving our customers. So today you're going to hear from members of our management team to share some of the great work that they have done this year. They're also summarized in this pamphlet that you have in your folders today. As you know, this is a program that we started several years ago. This is actually our 6th year at the suggestion of our former chair, Bruce Anderson. And we are really glad to have this program here and for you all to have a chance to see some of the great work that's gone on this year. So let me introduce the members of the management team who will be speaking with you this morning. Doug Miller is our manager of underground construction. Steve Proffitt, our manager of overhead construction. You've already heard from Billy Joe today. Shane Bragg is our acting manager of water and wastewater systems engineering, and then of course Mike Boland, who is our vice president of utility advancement. So I'd like to invite the chair and Mr. Boland up here to help present these awards, and we'll get started with Doug.
Thank you, Ms. Edwards. And good afternoon, commissioners. We won't soon forget May 1st when we had a large fire in our community. A plume of black smoke could be seen for miles rising above the Lincoln Park neighborhood. And it was shortly after that our System Operations Center got the phone call from 911 basically to say that we have a large commercial fire within close proximity to a residential neighborhood. So it's times like these that our community must be ready to react and respond to be able to contain a large fire like this. Many safety concerns, as you can see on the presentation there. We were concerned about the facilities we had on the property. Homes were being evacuated. At our Jackson Avenue complex, we could hear some of the propane tanks that were exploding on the property there as our folks were responding. So KUB was among the first to respond. Our system operations group quickly began to evaluate the perimeter of this 10-acre facility, looking to see how many utilities we had there that could be impacted. And our operations center began to direct our overhead construction crews to manually and strategically isolate parts of the electric system around the facility here. So most of our facility is overhead there, so we wanted to make sure that if the fire got out of bounds that we had the service, the electric lines de-energized. Our water plant operators were also in touch with system operations. They knew what was going on as well. And they increased flow to the area where the fire was actually occurring. And I have to say, with the water plant operators, this is as much of an art as it is a science. Because as they increase flow to a particular area, we do have to be cautious because there could be, with too much pressure, it could cause problems and actually prevent us from being able to get the flow to the area where we need. So did a great job there. Our underground construction was also among the first to respond. Our operations group let us know that there was an active gas service going to this property. So we had one of our underground construction crews come in and physically disconnect that service from the main line. We were also working hand in hand with the fire department to monitor pressure and flows on the existing hydrants. And we were working with the Water Systems Engineering Group hand in hand on what normally closed valves we could open from another district to be able to get more flow and more pressure into the area. So if you saw on the news at any given time, you could see 3 or 4 ladder trucks, multiple fire apparatus on the ground, and I'm proud to say we had no issues at all from our water system, and the fire department was very pleased with the flow and pressure while they fought the fire for a period of about 48 hours. Overall, I'm proud to say we had about 40 employees from the office and in the field who responded to this fire because at the end of the day, we still had to put the system back to normal. And it's times like these that our employees really get an opportunity to show their training, professionalism, quick reaction to a situation in our community that could have been went from bad to worse in a short amount of time. I'm most proud that with this particular event that we had 0 injuries while the crews were out there working over that 3-day period. So with that, I'd like to recognize 3 key individuals that helped make this a very safe and successful event for not only our community but also KUB. Lewis Rorix. Lewis, if you'll come up. Lewis was our very first responder on scene there at the fire. Danny Maxwell. Danny served as our field commander, and he was our liaison between us and the fire department. And also Philip Dyer. Philip was the crew leader for one of our first underground construction crews that were on site. So gentlemen, I want to thank you for a job well done in representing KUB well.
Stand up, kid.
Can you get us all in the same frame?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to talk through this Excellence Award. Just prior to November the 6th of 2018, we had some forecasted weather predictions. We could have some weather entering the system early that week. Overhead construction, system operations, all the other electric stakeholders, as we typically do, we started planning in advance of that, looking at resources. More than anything, though, the targeted date was going to be that November 6th, which was Election Day in Knox County. So outside of our normal preparations and other things that we typically try to do prior to an event entering the system, we were looking at those polling stations, and we were making sure that we had good information, we had good contacts, because we in no way wanted to inhibit the voting process. Unfortunately, the forecasters were correct. About 4 a.m. on November the 6th, we had 50-mile-an-hour plus straight line winds that come across the electric system, put 33,000 folks out of power, including 9 polling stations. So as we do, we rallied around that. Our folks rang the bell again. By mid-morning, we had some 75 crews, both KUB, hourly contractor, as well as other departments that had damage assessors in the field, locating this damage so that we could start making those repairs. We've got a few photos here of some of the areas the gentlemen were working in. This one to the far right, that's up off Highway 61 in Maynardville. We had some of our 69 kV transmission lines down. We've got some pictures to the left. We were in the Fountain City area there that night. We ended up about 30 hours. We were able to put 33,000 folks back in power, and by noon of November 6th, all polling locations were back up and running, which gave some time for folks to still get out and vote. But our crews did a fantastic job, as they always do. Sometimes it's easy to take for granted. I would look back just a couple of months, and we had the Halloween event this year, which was very similar in nature. We were able to put it away quickly, but I don't know that we've ever gotten any more customers back in service in any less time than we did, and that's a testament to the folks working. Another improvement that we did prior to the November 6th storm, we only had census meters at certain polling locations. So there was a lot of manual work that went on as we checked to make sure these folks were up and running for the election. But I'm happy to say now, this past election, just a few weeks back, we were able to poll all those electronically. We knew and could monitor all day long during the election what the status was to make sure that everything was as it should be. Again, I would echo what Doug said. Out of all the wonderful things that happened in this event, 33,000 folks home in 30 hours, 0 accidents, 0 injuries, and that is a testament to the folks that I'm getting to recognize here. But couldn't be more proud of our group, the organization, all the different departments that rally around and support that effort. It's wonderful to be a part of that team. At this time, I'd like to mention these folks and recognize them, ask them to step forward. Louis Smith, line foreman, overhead construction. I'm going to brag on Louis just a little bit and embarrass him, but Louis has been a KUB employee for 41 years. He has 41 years of service to our customers, and he is an outstanding employee. Kevin Roberts, SMS Wires. Meredith Knowlton, she is part of system operations, but she is the veg management part of that. Scott Mowry, also in system operations. And Gary Morrissey, which is our troubleshooting foreman. He's part of that first responding wave in overhead when we have trouble. And I embarrass Gary just a little bit too. He has 31 years of service to our customers, so I just kind of want to highlight that these guys have done this for a long time and done it very well. So with that, I recognize this group for the November 6th restoration.
Sink it in real quick. been on the job as manager of that department for 22 hours. Seriously, 22 hours. That was his first gig. So,
It's my fun presentation. Really excited to highlight some of the great innovation and passion coming out of our water systems engineering. And you've heard a little bit about this in a presentation recently, but some of the folks inside of water systems engineering are putting KUB on the map with how we implemented a water systems event management system. KUB is not unlike many utilities throughout the nation, where we collect thousands of pieces of data, and we're trying to figure out how do we best take that data and turn it into discernible information so that we can make smart decisions for our water system. So KUB, in partnership with a company called Takadu out of Israel, we first looked and said, how do we do this? And they came to us and they said, well, first we're probably collecting some data you need to do better, which is subdividing our system in what we call district metering areas, or DMAs. And then from there, Takadu provides an algorithm to say, there's something weird going on in your system, you might need to go look at it. We are the first utility in the United States that has implemented this Takadu software. Other utilities are looking. These gentlemen are consistently asked to be presenters, keynote speakers, subject matter experts at several water conferences throughout the country. And our own Ted Tyree has participated in several AWWA Water Research Foundation projects. Something that happened neat a couple years ago was he was actually asked to help New York City look at some different things they could do to improve their water system. And so definitely on the map, and it is through their own innovation and passion that has brought us here. So what does Takadu do? If you recall a couple months ago, we talked about a 1,000-gallon per minute leak on I-640. This is another example of something that's happened over off of Governor John Sevier. The chart you see in the bottom left, if you look, that green line, apparently Israel has some fancy technology that allows them to do an algorithm to predict flow coming in and out of those DMAs. However, that blue line is the real flow happening. So when those two lines diverge, our folks are going to get an email saying, hey, you might want to take a look at this. And so our folks every day are looking at the different charts going on with our Takadu software. We have incorporated several of our enterprise softwares, and so they'll first look at our Maximo data, our project data, our GIS data, and try to explain what's going on there. When they can't do that, then we go to the field in conjunction with underground construction. From there, we have some what we call data loggers. We have listening devices. Something else we'll do is called step testing that will further try to subdivide those areas to try to really figure out what's going on. Before we had this software, the picture in the middle where you see that white circle, you would drive by that all day long and not think anything about it until water started coming out. Well, our listening device pinpointed that location. This is what was going on. That was a 200-gallon per minute leak. We have not invented self-healing pipe yet. So that leak's not going to get any better. And its location on John Sevier, I mean, we don't want to be the reason John Sevier gets shut down. Over the course of the day, that would have been 288,000 gallons of water, and it would have continued to only get worse. And so this is just one example of how this software is helping us improve our water system every day. And anyone that ever wants to know more about the water system, come spend a day with Water Systems Engineering, because they can show you how this system allows them to better understand how water moves throughout our system and helps us make better decisions for our capital and long-range planning. Selfishly, I grew up working inside Water Systems Engineering, and I thought I was doing a good job. These guys are killing it. We know more about our water system than we've known in my entire 17 years here at KUB, and Mr. Haygood could probably, how long have you been here? Can you embarrass you? So I'm really excited to highlight the hard work that 3 of our engineers are doing inside of our water system. I'd like to recognize Ted Tyree, Drew Keller, and Danny Maxwell. And Drew never quit asking the question why. His dad will say, the story is his dad had always said that he never quit asking why. And Danny and Ted will say today that he's still doing that.
Good afternoon. It's great to be here today and my pleasure to present this unique project. The location is located on High School Avenue at 275 and North Central Street. This project began as a typical wastewater collection system rehabilitation and replacement project. What makes this unique is the section of pipe that's shown on the screen there that is 25 feet deep and approximately 100 feet long. You can also see some heavy vegetation, rocky terrain, and close proximity to the railroad tracks. What the team knew about this project was that CCTV camera footage showed a known blockage. The team began early in this process to start planning and looking ahead at some of the challenges that were ahead of them. The other thing that the team knew is this was 10-inch cast iron pipe. It's old pipe and has a lot of corrosion in it. In order to know the structural integrity of this pipe, the team would have had to have conducted some pretty invasive testing and water jetting that could have been detrimental to the actual pipe, causing a full collapse of the pipe. So as a result of that, the design called for a deep excavation, full replacement of the pipe. The team knew early on that there could be some other opportunities, potential cost-saving opportunities, potential safety opportunities to look forward and plan for different means of construction. But with the deep excavation, it called for additional cost for engineered excavation design, trench protection, and also additional railroad permitting and fees associated with that. The estimated cost for this work was in excess of $1 million. Once the contract was awarded, there was a means secured to safely go in and do that additional testing and removal of the corrosion of the cast iron pipe. So heavy cleaning and flushing ensued, and this allowed the team to determine two things. One, the structural integrity of the pipe, but it cleared up a lot of unknown questions and allowed them to make the pipe viable for trenchless construction. This is the cast-in-place pipe technology that I'm sure many are familiar with. By this proactive thinking, the team was able to save KUB $1.4 million, and it became apparent when we were looking at this project that the team operated exemplary with regards to the KUB blueprint. They touched on many areas of our shared values and our keys to success. So it's my pleasure to introduce these individuals from the Water Systems Engineering Department. Gentlemen, if you'll kindly make your way forward. Shane Ogan was the field services representative for the project, and he really brought the constructability elements to the project and helped us understand what the risks are when it was time to actually do the cleaning and the jetting. Tommy Lawhorn is in our project management group, and he, in conjunction with Steve Watson, who is in our wastewater planning group, really conceptualized the project, helped the team understand all the nuances and all the challenges, and put together early cost estimates to figure out ways to save the $1.4 million later on. So please welcome them.
Or do we have another presentation?
Sure.
It's wonderful seeing these presentations. It's a lot of great work, and it's nice to see your faces. People go out there and do this work. My first question is about the last presentation. What was the blockage? Was it something interesting, like a treasure chest or something like that?
I'm going to defer to the team on that one. I don't know that I can.
No, it was largely the corrosion of the cast iron pipe that had built up over time.
And then the second question is, it seems like we're never generally first at trying anything. Or, generally we're conservative with our pilot programs and stuff like that. But this, the Israeli technology, the Takadu, which seems really fantastic. So we're first. How did that happen?
Ted is a very tough negotiator.
Well, we looked at several packages. There were 3 that bid on it eventually. We knew early on that Takadu was the best at what they do, and they're still the best in terms of predictive analytics. Some other companies are trying to catch up, but they haven't quite caught them yet. And it worked out well for us. They obviously wanted a utility in the U.S., so we worked that to our advantage. And they're working hard now to find a utility in Canada and go through the same thing. So there'll be many more. It's a very good product.
Commissioners, I'm here to talk today about this that happened on a Saturday afternoon, December 15th, 2018. That Saturday afternoon actually was a pretty nice day that day, but unfortunately in Smith County, Tennessee, somewhere between Cookville and Lebanon, if you get the geography right, there was a pipeline rupture that occurred on East Tennessee natural gas pipeline system that served Knoxville. This is a single pipeline system, and you can see the result of the rupture here. There was nobody that was injured as a result of the eruption. There was no fire associated with it either, but it was a significant event. That piece of pipe is the piece of pipe that served the bulk of the gas supply for all of East Tennessee and Southwest Virginia. When that pipe ruptured the way it was, gas supply was threatened throughout the territory. Again, this happened on a Saturday afternoon late. After the event happened, and we found out about it, and actually we found out about it through news releases before we heard about it from the pipeline. The pipeline was scrambling themselves to try to figure out what was going on. We immediately started noticing pressure drops on our gas supply coming from the pipeline here in town. We could tell right away something was going on. Our gas supply folks rallied late that afternoon to try to ascertain, number one, more what was going on, number two, to turn on all of our storage assets that we have, and to start calling around for other potential gas supply options from other people that might have excess capacity. We quickly, by Sunday, this actually took a little while just to get information what was going on. By Sunday, it became clear that this was an incident that was extraordinary, not going to be something that was instantly repaired. And we established an incident command structure that we would have typically like for the storm event that was talked about earlier today. We probably had an incident command event when we had the big fire response as well. We established an incident command event for this pipeline outage the same way. One of the early things we did as well on Sunday morning, I guess it was, we decided that it was appropriate for us to curtail our interruptible gas customers. In other words, we have a group of gas customers that pay us lower rates in return for our ability to call on them to curtail their gas usage. Sunday morning, we called on our key accounts representatives to start contacting all of our larger interruptible customers and asked them to curtail their gas usage. So that started early Sunday morning with calls to the hospitals and manufacturers around town, to the University of Tennessee and other people around town to curtail their gas usage. The next thing we started doing as part of all this, and everything's really happening at the same time, it's not really linear, was the engineers started taking a look at some contingency planning. The reality is, with the bulk of our gas supply not being delivered to Knoxville or places like Johnson City and Roanoke, Virginia, had there been cold weather, there would have been more demand than there would have been supply. And when demand outstrips supply, somebody does without. So our engineers started looking at, okay, what will happen if pressures start declining from the pipeline? How would our system react? How would we go about segmenting our system into pieces? We also engaged our construction workforces to try to educate them and rally them around, okay, here's what scenarios could happen under a worst case scenario if pressure started declining, and started educating and preparing our underground workforce, construction workforce as well. We ultimately, after a few days, went on air and into the newspaper asking for voluntary conservation from our customers. Again, this happened on a Saturday and dragged on into the next week, and actually dragged on for a total of 15 days where we were out without the bulk of our gas supply. We asked for voluntary conservation, and we made specific requests to some of the largest firm industrial customers that by definition don't, by rate schedule, have to curtail, but we asked them to voluntarily reduce their usage so that the residential customers could still have gas. And a lot of them went extraordinary lengths to do just that. And I want to express our appreciation for their cooperation. And I think residential customers themselves got the messages as well. Eventually, all the utilities in our area were affected the same way. We all lost our supply, a bulk of our supply, through that piece of pipeline. So we coordinated together with our fellow distributors to ultimately issue joint press releases, joint communications, so that everybody knew this was a regional issue. There were conversations held with the elected officials to make sure they were aware of potential situations that were going on as well. There was a very large communications effort with everybody involved to make them aware that there was an ongoing issue and it was being addressed, but just create a great deal of awareness. 15 days after the start, the pipeline was able to make repairs and put their piece of pipe back into service at a reduced level, 80% of capacity that it was before, but it was enough to avert the immediate needs. It was eventually put back in 100% service here about a month ago. So it's taken almost a year now to get back to where we were, but after those first 15 days, we were kind of out of that danger zone, if you will, of any other bad contingencies. But there was a lot of people here at KUB throughout the company that spent a lot of time across Christmas, around Christmas, all the way right up to New Year's Eve, dealing with and worrying about on a constant basis the contingencies that might happen with a major loss of your gas supply serving us. So with that, we have a few people here today. I want to call up here and have y'all recognize associated with their work there. First, Stephanie Midget from Communications. Stephanie did a great job interacting with all the media and all the folks, and she actually helped coordinate all the efforts with all the other distributors as well. I've got Rodney Eads here from the key accounts folks. The key accounts folks were the ones that interacted with all of our larger industries, both the interruptible customers and the firm customers, to make sure they were aware of the situation and were doing what they can with their usage. We have Wayne Britnall and Morgan Baum. Both of them are with gas supply. They were the ones that were coordinating with both our gas suppliers and the pipeline as well. And so if y'all will join me in recognizing them for their efforts.
I just want to say what an honor it is and a privilege to be able to come out here and represent the board today in this presentation. It is clearly evident that you can't have a utility system that has the safety record, the efficiency record, and the customer service record that we have without a great group of employees. And we truly do have a great group of employees. It's wonderful to be able to recognize you all today. I also want to say that the chairman award for this year was presented to the natural gas pipeline incident group. It's so hard to look at all these and select something that should receive an award because they are all such great work on behalf of KUB, and we really appreciate all of it. But in this particular incident, it was a situation that had never happened before. And when something like that happens, it makes you stop and think how many hundreds of thousands of lives KUB touches. And it was an incident that, handled incorrectly, could have been a real catastrophe for the citizens of Knox County at that point in time. Nobody wants to hear that they may not have gas in the middle of December, and it was a pretty cold December at that point in time, as I remember. The thing about this incident is that if you go back and talk to people in the community, outside this room, most of them, probably with the exception of those large customers who were corresponded with, most of them don't have any recollection of this incident. It is not something that they have carried forward with them, and that is a testament to how well all of you all handled this incident. It just makes all of us so proud to know that we had people that were on the clock on a Saturday in the middle of December, in the middle of the holiday season, working to make things right. The coordination that they had to do, the alternative potential resources that they had to obtain was all done so well, and it's just, again, it's a real privilege to be able to sit up there and know that I'm a part of this organization. So I'd like to have one more round of applause for
I'll just echo exactly what she said. She did a much better job than I'll do. Can't say enough about our folks. We have 1,000 employees. They every day do a lot of things for utilities. We maintain the system safe and reliable for our customers. These events were extraordinary. These are the one-offs, these are things you don't plan for, but you are prepared for. And they handle them with such expertise and professionalism. You know, it's why we recognize them. I want to thank all the employees that are here and those who could not be here. Thank you for what you do every day. You make my job easy. And I appreciate everything you do, and I hope you have we appreciate everything you do for us every day, so thank you.
All right, moving on to other business. Commissioner Tucker, you have the nominee committee report?
Yes. Commissioners, in January, the board elects officers as required by the charter. The nominating committee met earlier today and voted to nominate the following slate of officers for 2020. For chair, Kathy Hamilton; vice chair, Adrian Simpson Brown; and Mark Walker as secretary. The election of officers will be conducted in January 2020 as required by the charter.
Thank you. We will now hear from members of the public who would like to address the board. Our procedures allow guests to have up to 5 minutes to make your comments. There is a light on the podium. When there is 1 minute remaining, the yellow light on the podium timer will go on. And when your time is up, the red light will go on. We have Mr. Kent Minot.
Good day, Commissioners. Nice to see you all again. I'm coming here today to tout an EV incentive measure that I sent you digitally from Southern California, basically giving $1,500 to anybody who registers a used electric car in the service area. Now, I'm doing this. I'm preparing to come back next month with another public comment about energy efficiency. And energy efficiency and transportation electrification are a couple of things that should be planned by a utility together, I think, because for the simple reason that if you do a successful energy efficiency measure, and it really works, then the utility's revenue goes down. And if you do a successful transportation electrification measure and it works, then the utilities revenue goes up. So it's like walking with two legs. They should be done together. Now, there's a couple of reasons why this particular measure is a good idea. One is that anybody who's considering their transportation options should look at an electric car because it's just more fun, it saves you money, you don't have to get the darn thing fixed so much, so there's a lot less headaches involved. And when people find out about that, then they're interested in adopting. But as you approach the possible purchase of an electric vehicle, you notice that there's a little bit of an initial outlay of money that's quite a bit more than for a gasoline-powered car. So this measure helps ease that initial obstacle. And also, it helps lower income residents take advantage of electric driving. A lot of lower income residents don't really think electric cars are for them. They're for rich or at least middle class people. And yet, in my experience as an electric driver, when I charge up at Caswell Park or down at the Promenade Lot, and I sometimes see other motorists, these aren't rich people. They are sometimes low income or working poor people who have figured out how to get an electric car and are taking advantage of a lot of the free opportunities to charge up, which can be a tremendous benefit if you're on a limited income. And by the way, as has been reminded in previous meetings, even though we get some free charging sometimes, you still get the money because those are billed service equipment. So anyway, for these reasons, adoption of electric driving is a big benefit to the utility, it's a big benefit to the community, and it's a big benefit to the environment. So thank you again for your attention, and great to see you all again, and have a great holiday.
Thank you. All right. Following the adjournment of this meeting, the board will have a lunch session across the hall that the public is open to the public rather to observe. The meeting is now adjourned.